What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We are done with the first weekend of college basketball. March Madness 2025.
First two rounds complete.
First two rounds complete. Most of you probably know, not a ton of upsets, not a ton of shellacking, not a ton of that stuff.
Not a ton of a lot of things that everybody looks for, but would you say it was still a good weekend?
I would still say it's always fun. It's always fun. I think the first day, so now we're talking Thursday, Friday, I think this year were less fun. I don't know if that's the right terminology, but kind of just harder because
maybe less exciting.
there was no. Well, we got our first buzzer beater / close game. I mean, the first buzzer beater was Sunday night,
Early evening.
early evening. Yeah, Maryland with Colorado State. So the other games really weren't close at all. So unfortunately, I wouldn't say it was less fun. I think it's always fun to watch, but I think it just showed the difference between
Maybe
mid-majors.
less excitement.
Yeah, there was no
We'll go with
excitement.
that.
Well, let's just say no excitement.
Well,
But maybe for some of you, your bracket, that was exciting. Maybe you didn't pick a lot of upsets. So probably exciting for you.
the challenging part about that is everybody just assumes that there's going to be upsets,
Correct.
and then when there's not, then it actually works backwards where you thought that you had to pick upsets,
Mm-hmm.
and then your bracket reflects that, and then when there aren't any, then it's like, oh crap, my bracket isn't as good.
Right. I mean, because there's only what? There's 1 2 seed and 1 3 seed. 2 3 seeds and 1 2 seed.
There's 2 6s.
So there's only 4 seeds that are not. Because, like in the Sweet
2
16.
6s and a 10.
Yeah, so there's 3 seeds. So there's 2 4. So there's 2 3 seeds and a 2 seed that didn't make the Sweet 16. Other than that, it's just 1 through 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 2 6s, like you said, and the 10.
Yep.
So, I don't know, kind of intriguing. I mean, this next weekend should be obviously a lot more fun.
Maybe.
I don't know. I guess we'll wait and see. Yeah, some of these teams have looked dominant and just continue to dominate. So, it's the world of the NIL. It's pushing out the mid majors, unfortunately.
You think that that's the main reason?
I think it's probably part of it. I think it's hard when.
Because last year, FAU.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
Was it FAU last year?
They were the what? Was it last year or 2 years ago? Last year, because that was Dusty May's last year.
Correct.
Yeah. So I guess it all depends. I think they were what, a 9 seed?
Yep.
So, I mean, so still 9 seed, 10 seed Arkansas. Similar.
I think this year, and the writing was kind of on the wall,
Mm-hmm.
where the best teams were just so good.
Yeah, right.
And so, I mean,
Well, I
with
think it
that comes big blowouts.
Yeah.
So I think maybe the middle area from I will say I was expecting more from the 4 to 13, through 4 13, 5 12, 6 11, so on and so forth,
Mm-hmm.
where that gap would be a little bit closer.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not too surprising that the 1 through 4s were so dominant because the whole year they were so good.
Right. Right.
So that part I guess is a little bit less surprising to me, but
I think it also shows how these big 4 conferences, big 5, whatever, but just how dominant. Truthfully, I know. I mean, the SEC started with what, 14 teams, and there's still 7.
7, yeah.
So it's half the teams are SEC teams.
Right.
So that kind of shows. I know a lot of people might not have been in favor of it, but it's kind of showing maybe they did make the right pick.
Getting
having all these teams in
all
there.
14 teams, yeah.
Yeah, and I think even then you look at after the first weekend. I mean, there was only probably 2 or 3 that lost, and then this last weekend they lost a few more. But
in the first round.
First round. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's tough. I mean, it is tough, but these big conferences, it's just compete and. I mean, I don't know. You're paying players, which is great, but I mean, hopefully it'll start to pick back up. I just think if you're able to pay players, you're going to get the best transfers. You're going to get the best whatever.
Makes
the
it a little
Dukes.
easier
Yeah,
when you can pay players more money.
100%.
Get better players in theory.
Yeah, but there's still some fun teams to watch. Still a lot of basketball to be played.
How are you going to fix it?
Well, I think
Does
that's
it-
the question.
well,
I don't know if it's an easy fix.
Do you feel like you need to fix it?
I don't think
Or
you need to
fix
fix
something?
it.
Or do you need to change something? Or
Um,
is it fine and this year is just an anomaly?
Yeah, I don't know. I think you got to give it some time because, like we said last year, there was still upsets, and last year, even the year before that, wasn't
But
that
this
the pretty year?
I mean, what year did NIL start?
Last year, right? Big time last year.
Slash, maybe it was maybe 2 years ago because I feel like that was the reason Hunter Dickinson went to Kansas, and that was 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Right?
so the year before.
2 years? 2 years ago?
Yeah,
Is that
it's 1 or 2 years
really
ago.
started?
But even then, I mean, what was it? Purdue got upset. That was that year, wasn't it? 2 years ago.
I think so.
So I mean, I don't know. I think the hard part is you got to keep letting it go. The hardest part is they've already screwed. I think the NCAA has already screwed themselves in the sense of you never put a cap on it at all. So now these big schools are going to continue to get an immense amount of money when it's like a smaller school isn't getting the same amount. So there's like no salary cap or anything. It's like basically saying, hey, NFL teams, this team can go spend $1 billion. You can only spend $300 million. Well, the billion's probably going to be better. You see it in baseball all the time. It's like, why are the Dodgers so great? Because they spend more money.
True.
And so,
Give me a fix.
I think the fix is essentially what you would have to do is you would almost have to make it so they can only get a certain allotment to that program. So, like, if the number is $25 million, okay, so $25 million can go to the basketball. I still don't know if that fixes it because I don't know if these small schools can get $25 million. You know what I'm saying, to a small school. So you look at like a McNeese. Is someone going to donate $25 million just to specific to basketball? Probably not.
No, that's not going to happen.
So then you look at St. John's. St. John's will get $25 million every year if they needed to, because the body armor CEO. So I think Harper's. I don't know if there's a real fix because you do want players to get paid. I don't know. I think it will make the better teams in these next few rounds, like you said in the tournament, more competitive. I just don't know if there's really ever a fix because now we've created it where you can pay players as much as they want in every sport.
What if the only fix that you needed to make was that outside of a coaching change or or you graduating, then you can only transfer one time.
Yeah. No, I think there needs to be
because I feel like the main thing that makes players want to enter the transfer portal and get more money is because they outperformed where they were at in the current year.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, since I did so well last year, then I'm going to try and go to a bigger team, bigger school, bigger conference, get more money, and then if they do that year, then what's to say they're not going to go to a different team that would just give them more money the next year?
Right.
So if there was only one change that needed to be made, if they can change it to outside of the coach leaving or them graduating, then they get one free transfer for the 4 years, and then that's it. Kind of essentially.
Well, are people still in their COVID years?
That ended
This is this year, right?
This current year.
Yeah.
So I believe that's done. But I feel like if you did that, then that would essentially take out just jumping from team to team to get more money. Because then, I mean, you can decide if you dominate your freshman year, you can transfer after that year, but then you got to stay there for 3 years.
Yeah, I think the
or
hard
you
part.
wait till 2 or 3 years and then you transfer for 1 to 2 years to this other school and get more money then.
Yeah.
But if you restrict how many times you can transfer outside of extenuating circumstance, you'd have to make clear if your coach leaves, then you can transfer. If you graduate and you're transferring in a grad transfer, you can do that.
So you're saying one transfer per 4 years, or one transfer while you're there, unless your coach leaves, and then you get another one if you're a grad transfer, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there might be 1 or 2 other extenuating circumstances that would count as you get an extra transfer. For instance, if you have a significant injury and they don't have a scholarship for you anymore or something like that, those types of things.
Yeah.
But
do you think there's a point though also at the same time where it's maybe instead of putting exceptions, we just say, hey, here's the bare bones rules? Because when you start making exceptions, then it's I don't know. I feel like it's hard though because there's reasons.
So you think that if their coach leaves, they shouldn't be able to.
No. Coach leaves is fine, but I think if you get injured or you redshirt or do whatever, that's your one transfer. I think the hard part about what my point is though is I don't know if there's ever a change because I don't think you can put if I transfer to this one school and that's my one transfer, and then a guy comes from the next year comes from a different school and basically takes my spot. Now you're saying I'm stuck at this school for 3 more years when I don't want to be here, right? So it's impossible because it's one of those. It's a choice, but they're always. I don't know if there's ever a fix because all people are doing now is like I said, no one recruits really high school kids anymore. It's all go to the portal, find these kids that are going to play for you today. Who knows what they're going to do tomorrow?
Well, it would require a different approach potentially.
So if you were in there, if you transferred one time and then somebody came and took your spot,
Well, hopefully
would you be pissed?
You're continuing to get better and nobody takes your spot.
Yeah, hopefully. As we've seen, that's not real. I mean, right now it's just all a money grab, which I agree that players should be paid. I get to that, but at some point,
Well, that's why you would only be able to transfer once and potentially increase your money by going to a different place that's going to offer you more money.
yeah. Well, I do know I think somebody was saying, I don't know who we were talking to this past week or who I was talking to, but they said that like some NIL thing got this high school guy. I think it was
Washington.
Yeah, he has had to sign a 2-year deal.
Right.
Or if he ever transferred out in the second year, he would lose that money. Which in reality, then it's like, if you redshirt your first year, at least they know they're getting 1 year of you.
Yep.
So,
That makes sense.
100%. I think the hard part is, like I said, it's just tough. It's all money grab. It's all,
Yeah, but the rules currently allow that to happen.
right.
So let's change the rules. You get to transfer one time, and now it's less of a money grab because you are at one place and
You think people would find a
can leave.
loophole?
Well,
You think people would find a loophole in saying, potentially like, oh, I want to move here because I have a family member sick, or if I have a serious injury, potentially you get injured, you're able to then transfer. Is that what you're saying? Like if you get hurt and let's say your scholarship then goes away, or you get hurt and you now don't have a spot to play, are you able to then get another transfer, or are you stuck? Was that what you were saying? That would be an exception?
the injury one was a little bit more of all right, I'll just provide an additional potential extenuating circumstance.
Got it.
I think that's less of a specific example,
Right.
rather than the grad transfer or the coach leaving. Like those two are
Yeah.
clearly times that people should be able to transfer.
Oh, coach! If your coach leaves, you should get free will to
exactly.
do whatever you want. I 100% agree with that. I think the hard part is right now what it is it's that the difference is it became less focused on, hey, I'm going to go to school and graduate. Now it becomes where can I go get my $1 million, play basketball, probably take a few classes, knowing, I mean, what's the AJ Store? AJ Store probably is going to be in the transfer portal again if he has more eligibility, and he's been there 5 straight years. So it's like all these guys, like you
Well,
said,
yeah.
he might be done.
No, I think he's only like a sophomore.
Hasn't he transferred 3 times? Wasn't he the guy also in high school that left every year?
Right. That I think the years are mixing together because that happened in high school as well.
So he's a junior.
Yes, he's got at least another year.
So he's a junior. He's already transferred or switched schools all 3 years.
Yeah.
But see, this is the crazy thing is I know money's great, but you went from being a 36, starting every game, being a huge focal point on a team, to literally starting 4 games on a Kansas team that sucked and averaging 10 less points than you did. So at some point, when we played D3, I get it, or when we played, you just played because you wanted to make the team better and get better. Now it's where can I go? I mean, he's probably getting a lot more money at Kansas, but he's not playing.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
well,
I mean, he did ball out in the NCAA game.
I mean, not every situation is like that, but I think he probably regrets not going, not just staying at Wisconsin.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a hard thing. I mean, I think the nice thing is you get kids who dominated at their school, so maybe a smaller school, and now go get an opportunity to be great at a different school while making money.
Yep.
Because schools can't afford it. But I think the hard part is even if you let kids do that, I don't think it shortens the gap of these great teams versus these mid-majors. I don't think it changes anything. I think these teams still dominate the mid-majors. As long as across the board for like the NCAA tournament, I think it doesn't change anything. I think the next few years we'll see the top teams just dominate.
That's why they got to change to one transfer, because that would minimize that would shrink the gap of the better teams versus the mid majors, because if you're dominating at a mid-major, you know that you can only transfer one time, essentially up a level.
Right.
So you would have to decide when you want to do that. It could potentially keep a guy at a mid-major for a year or two longer,
Right.
before they go to a Kansas
Yeah.
and get more money for their junior or senior year. You know, I could see that, like, if the rule changed to one transfer, I could see it essentially being like 2 years, right? Because like you play your freshman and sophomore year at a mid-major, you get really good. Even if you dominate freshman year, okay, you come back, do it again. Now all the high major programs are like, okay, yeah, this guy has 2 years dominating in this mid-major conference. We feel really good about offering him this amount of money and knowing that he's going to be here for 2 years.
Yeah, I think it's also more.
So then you get 2 years of a mid-major with a really good player.
Yeah, you also have to be more strategic when you're recruiting instead of just going year in, year out. But I think it's if I'm a kid at a mid-major and I dominate my freshman year, I'm leaving right that year.
Absolutely, in the current state, for sure.
No, I'm saying even if I only get one transfer, I'm going to get my money, because what if my sophomore year I don't do as well and that offer is not there anymore?
True.
It's like you said, it's a lot more thought process knowing you only have one.
Yeah.
In today's day and age, I'm going to transfer because if I stink, I'm out of there again.
Right.
I'm just going to hop. So
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a hard time in college basketball because there's, like you said, there's no loyalty to the team. There's no nothing. So what do? I mean, I think I saw a stat saw a picture on Twitter that said the Sweet 16 teams where the starting five started their college career, and Purdue was the only team that had 4 or more guys start at Purdue and still be at Purdue. Everyone else is. I mean, Duke might be. It was Duke, and I think Purdue had 5. Duke had 4.
Yeah, because Duke starts 3 freshmen, so obviously they're just coming from high school.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So they're only Duke.
Yeah.
So I think Purdue was the one that had 5, but all these other schools, it's like they have 2 from here, 1 from here. But like you said, at some point, something needs to make a change. I think they just need to They need to figure something out.
I'm just gonna go with my answer. That's the best answer.
Yeah, well, we'll see if they agree. We'll see if they listen and agree.
Probably not, but
there's too much money being thrown.
All right. Well, before we get into the tournament recap and look ahead into the second weekend, coaching changes, kind of related to what we were just mentioning. A bunch of coaches have either been fired, have retired, or are moving to different places.
Yeah.
So far, let's see here. There's 38 coaching changes. 38 teams / schools that made coaching changes. 25 of them already have their new head coach.
Yeah.
After 3 days of the first weekend being done. A few notables are which ones?
I would say Indiana getting DeFreeze. He was only at West Virginia for 1 year?
1 year, yeah.
So he was at West Virginia for 1 year. The Drake coach was at Drake for 1 year.
Yep.
McCollum, now he's in Iowa.
Which means Iowa fired Fran.
Yeah, which he had
Not
been there
surprising.
forever. Yeah. You then have, Gophers.
Big Ten, yeah.
Yeah, Gophers, Medvedev. How do you say his last name? Medved. Colorado State. Great pickup.
Yep. So in the Big Ten, it's Indiana, Iowa, and Minnesota.
Yeah.
That have new coaches. All 3 have hired their coach.
Who all were previous head coaches somewhere else.
All were previous head coaches, yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's big time jobs. I don't know. I thought I saw something that the Drake athletic director was like, yeah, I'm disappointed he left, but also at the same time, like, it's way bigger than this. It's a bigger program.
Way bigger in the same state. Obviously, if the state school club's calling, then probably gonna go.
Right. Yeah, you're not gonna stay.
I mean,
Unfortunately, Drake's a good team, but we're talking Iowa. We're talking the University of Iowa, like this school.
Yes.
So, no, I agree.
All right, so that's Big Ten. Other big ones.
I mean, Texas job, Sean Miller from Xavier. So what's his name? Rodney Terry? Wasn't he?
He was at Texas. He was an assistant under Chris Beard, and then he got promoted when Chris Beard got suspended.
Yeah, Chris Beard got suspended. Now Chris Beard is balling.
So we got Texas in the, what are they in? They're in the SEC.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else in the SEC? West Virginia? They're in that.
They haven't hired anyone.
Are they in the SEC?
They're in the Big 12, I thought. Aren't they?
Yeah, you're right. Okay,
They
so
might be the only
Texas
SEC.
is in the SEC.
So which means Xavier's going to need a coach soon. There's some teams that are still waiting
Yep, but they're the only SEC team.
that has made a move.
And then ACC. ACC is Virginia. Funny story with Virginia. They hired Ryan Odom from VCU, and Ryan Odom was the coach of UMBC when Virginia lost as a number 1 seed.
To UMBC.
Yeah.
Wait, Tony Bennett. Oh, because they had an interim?
Tony Bennett was the coach not this last year, but the year before. He retired, and they promoted a guy for,
1 season.
yeah,
Okay.
didn't work out.
No.
Tony Bennett,
Did he leave?
resigned / retired the first week of the season.
Yeah, he started there. I'm
He was
pretty
like,
sure. And that's why they did
I'm
the
out,
interim, because they were
dog.
like, this team stinks him out.
yeah. All right, so we got Virginia in the ACC.
Well, Florida State.
Florida
Leonard
State.
Hamilton retired after 30 some years.
Yep.
Who's Luke Lux? Who's
Luke
that?
Locks. He's a former player at Florida State,
Florida former player.
and then NC State.
As to say, Will Wade, which came out
Will Wade.
right after McNeese had lost.
Yep.
But that was kind of talk of the town beforehand.
That was essentially no. And
Yeah.
one more in the ACC. Miami.
Yeah, who did Miami? Oh,
Miami hired
Jay Lewis.
an assistant from Duke, and so that happened before the NCAA tournament. So Duke lost an assistant preparing for the NCAA tournament.
Well, Jim Larineda
that guy
also, he
left.
retired, right?
I believe so. Yes.
Well, he retired mid-season too, I thought.
Mid-season.
So
Yeah.
these older
But
coaches just kind of dipped.
But I mean, for Miami, it didn't make much. It made sense because him leaving mid-season allowed them to know, okay, we got to hire somebody. We get first dibs on whoever we want.
Right.
You know, we can go look at these other teams and get a guy that we want to bring in. Whereas, I mean, for Virginia, it's not like you're going out to hire your forever coach the week before the season.
Right.
You know, so in that case, you have to just do an interim.
Well, and see how he does.
Essentially promote a guy that's already on the staff and then let him go for that year. And then you're at the same place as you would be if you fired a guy after the season. You know, so
Right.
it makes sense for Miami where that was perfect timing. They could just take whoever they want. They could go after whoever they want. But for Virginia or maybe some of the others, it's like, well, that just doesn't help us at all.
Right. Well, because you're also just promoting a guy if you're Virginia because he already knows. You're probably running the same structure, if not a little bit different.
Yeah, that close to the season.
Yeah,
it's
you
not
can't
gonna
make
work.
any changes.
No.
Yeah. So, also, I remember Mike Bibby, Sacramento State. Mike Bibby, former baller,
There you go.
now bodybuilder, maybe?
Head coach.
Head coach of Sacramento State Hornets.
Is there anybody else that is notable? Oh, which conference is Utah in? Are they in the Big 12?
Big 12.
So they're in the Big 12. They hired Alex Jensen, who was an assistant with the Mavericks.
Oh, coming down.
I mean, assistant to head coach, MBA to college. So they're in the Big 12. West Virginia hasn't hired anybody yet, but they're also in the Big 12. And I think that is all of the
Notable ones so far.
big dogs. Josh Pastner making a return to coaching. That was also one that
UNLV, the
interesting.
Running Rebels.
going
Yeah.
to UNLV. But outside of that, those are all the main ones.
Yeah, I
So-
feel like there's a lot, but there's really not a ton of big ones. I mean, what's crazy is Ben McCullum's name was getting thrown around before the tournament started or even during the season. Nico's name was getting thrown around for the Gophers before the tournament started.
Mm-hmm.
So
Will Wade.
Will Wade had already almost signed the papers before the season
Yeah.
started. So yeah, I think it's always interesting to see these coaches. I mean, I don't know about DeVries going to Indiana. I know they were looking at a coach. I didn't know he might have been their top guy.
I think they were looking at him and McCollum.
Yeah, and then McCollum probably went to.
Well, I think Indiana hired DeVries first.
Oh yeah, because it
'Cause-
makes sense because McCollum was they were coaches still.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So Interesting. We'll see what happens. I mean, there's a few jobs open. I wouldn't say there's some decent ones. West Virginia's not bad. Villanova, Kyle Neptune. That must be he must have come after Jay Wright.
Yeah.
Villanova's been
Correct.
nice. Yeah, so we'll see. Damn, Miami was 3-17 this year.
Yeah, not good.
It's horrible.
All right, on to the tournament.
Yeah, first 2 rounds done.
First 2 rounds done. As we mentioned, not the most exciting games, but was there a highlighted game of the weekend for you? And why?
I would say in the second round, actually, the highlighted game would be Michigan, Texas A&M. Michigan started out a little bit slower. Obviously, Texas A&M, Pharrell Payne made a name for himself, a big name for himself. But I think
he played really well this weekend.
Yeah, he played very well. I think the difference was a lot of people were, and don't get me wrong, Michigan has had 2 very close dogfight games. UC San Diego, the first game came down to pretty close, and then this last game, they picked it up at the end. But I think they've shown, they're kind of riding a high. They won the Big Ten. A lot of people put them on upset alert the first week. Now they're in the Sweet 16.
And could go head-to-head with Auburn and beat them.
Yeah, that's an interesting game. I will say that is definitely Auburn's a unique team. I feel like Auburn first half never plays very well, and then all of a sudden in the second half they're like, all right, we're Auburn.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
We'll see. Creighton, they were losing at halftime, and then they're just too size dominated, and they just have too many playmakers.
Mm-hmm.
So,
the game that stood out to me was, I would say the what's the word I'm looking for? The way that the weekend went, it was like the teams that were down by a lot, when they made their push as the game got closer to the end, they never got over the hump and actually won.
mm-hmm.
It was like they got so close, but then the team that was winning just won. And there was no big shots outside of the Maryland shot against Colorado State. There really wasn't any big shots to tie it and win it at the end. It was always the player missing the shot or turning it over and not getting a shot at the end.
Yeah.
So that was kind of weird because you always expect they're just going to go up and make the shot and win the game.
Right.
But that didn't seem to happen.
Well, there wasn't a lot of back and forth, buckets after buckets
Down the
from
stretch.
both teams. I think it was always one team would make a little push if they were coming from behind, and then the team would kind of stop the push and then go on their own little 3-4-0 run.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, all right, we're up 6 or 7. There you go.
Yeah, true. I would say one of the better games that I thought was Mississippi State and Baylor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That one was pretty good. A little bit of back and forth as it went down the stretch. Baylor was ahead for a lot of the game, but then Mississippi State came back and pushed them a little bit as it got down to it.
Yeah, that was probably the one game who also, the spread was probably the closest 8-9 matchup.
In the first round. Yeah.
Probably could have gone either way. Yeah, I don't know. Then they got smoked by Duke, which is expected, but...
And the Michigan-San Diego State, or the Michigan-San Diego game.
Yeah,
the first round was
game.
pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Michigan's had 2 tough games.
Mm-hmm.
But even in the second round, you look at the second round games, not necessarily Saturday, but for sure Sunday, you start off with Florida and UConn kind of going back and forth. UConn takes a little bit of a lead. Florida's turning it over a lot. Florida ends up winning by 2, whatever you want to say. If he had a buzzer beater 3, whatever. But that was a game also that could have gone either way. I think kind of not really necessarily expected. But then, like you said, you have the